Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rekakadosh. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teachers of truth and sincerity. And shout out to Yakians out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaim his truth. Raka the Yahweh, Raka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rekakadosh, Rakatum. So watching everything in real time, and another fake pandemic coming up. I mean, you got everything all at the same time to usher in the MOTB. So let's just start with the crisis first. And Slovakia, you will hear my puppy in the background.
Well, a few minutes ago, Ken Griffin, the CEO of Citadel, came out and said that energy costs will lead to a global recession. He was emphatic about that. Jeff Curie of the Carlyle Group said, people don't understand what we're about to face here, that we are in a deficit right now for oil in the United States, and that once the shortages hit, it's game over. He's never seen anything like this. He just spoke about this a few hours ago. Watch.
I still say that with you. It's going to be, sometime the month of May that you're going to end up with Europe hitting tank bottoms, and in the U.S. it's somewhere in that July 4th time period. If not sooner, by the way. The inventories number coming out of the U.S., the ones we got last night, the ones last week, I've never seen anything like that before. The analogy I think is like in that movie Jaws, when the mayor declares the beaches are open, you can see the fins swimming around there, and the fin are these inventory numbers. And I think that it's important to remember that these inventory numbers. Let's define terms. A deficit versus a shortage. We have a deficit today, meaning that demand is above supply and we're drawing inventories. It's not a shortage yet. So to answer your question, you have the shortages in places like, Asia, and it's not that bad yet because you're not completely at tank bottoms. But in places like Europe and the United States, you're in a deficit and you don't hit the shortages until you hit tank bottoms.
Tank bottoms and July 4th. Already feeling this, of course, across Asia and Europe. We're joined by Colonel Douglas McGregor now to talk more about this energy shock that we're about to see. Of course, you were talking about Jeff Curie earlier, Colonel. Just your thoughts on what we're about to see from an energy perspective as it relates to what's happening with the war in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz.
My friends in India talked to me this morning and told me that oil is $118 a barrel right now.
Wow!
If you're talking about jet fuel, then it's exceeding now $250 a barrel. That's jet fuel. That means that the airlines, in many cases, are going to go under. Now, people will say, well, Spirit was already in trouble. That may be true, but I know that Lufthansa has canceled thousands of flights. We're going to see much more of that. Anything involved in distillates, LPG, LNG, all these things, they're all at premium prices. Everything is going to become more expensive. When it tanks, to the extent that Jeff Curie pointed out, imagine what the cost will be in this country as well as overseas. How do you get it across to President Trump that when fertilizer doesn't move, crops don't grow? When feedstock doesn't arrive, livestock don't eat. When fuel doesn't flow, trucks don't run. And trucks run on diesel. And diesel is in very short supply. Heat doesn't show up, air conditioning doesn't work, and food doesn't end up on the shelf. That's really where we're headed right now. And it's all because of the stupidity in the Persian Gulf. Now, when I listened to Secretary Rubio this morning, said, what we really want is a free access and flow of traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, Mr. Secretary, that's exactly what you had before you attacked Iran.
Right.
Good Lord.
Now we're going back to what we already had, and that's now the strategic goal in all of this is go back to where we were before we decided to start bombing them.
Right. I see my feed is full. My sort of Instagram stories are all people who are like, leave Iran alone. I do not want these prices at the pump. They're not buying it. Even if President Trump is telling these children, we had to do it, it had to be done, they were going to nuke us all. Nobody buys it. Can you believe what you're seeing? And, you've been through many war propaganda cycles. This seems like the worst.
Well, it certainly is at least as bad as I remember in Vietnam. It took us a long time to figure out that, contrary to popular belief, we weren't really stopping communism in Vietnam, that this was actually a civil war that we'd involved ourselves in. Here's the most important question. Who is governing our country? You've got to answer that question. And for whom are people in Washington
Lisa the Flock,
governing the United
Amalek, right?
States? Now, our founders, answered that question pretty clearly. Actually, unambiguously, they said the government of the United States derives its legitimate power from the consent of the governed, not from foreign sources, foreign courts, foreign treasuries, foreign governments, foreign interests. It comes from the American people. And go back to what you said, Clayton. He's never talked to the American people about this war. Mm-hmm. And when he did, as sort of a sideshow, when he spoke on the State of the Union, and he mentioned Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. And like trained seals, everybody stood up on both sides of the aisle and clapped.
Right.
Even though there was no such animal in Iran.
Right. Well, that's a question.
Who is in charge?
Yeah, who is in charge? Here's a question from Southern Griffscom. I'm going to put this up on the screen. It says, how will you guys feel if Trump succeeds? He campaigned on no new wars. An Iran with no nuclear power is a better world. Otherwise, China or Russia would have sold them nukes. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, I'll just say, I don't know that Iran having its own nuclear power to support its own people is an affront to the world. I think that it would enrich and help the Iranian people. I think I would be fully supportive of them having their own nuclear power to power their buildings and infrastructure. But if Trump succeeds, how will we feel? What does success mean to?
Well, I thought we already did succeed because we blew up their nuclear weapons.
They're obliterated. Yeah. Go ahead, Philip.
Well, that question like defeats itself because if he campaigned on no new wars, he didn't step into this already in process. It wasn't like he just walked into
shameful spewing on the king of Babylon.
You can't succeed. You can't succeed and then start no new wars argument.
Yeah.
You already lost that argument.
Colonel, what do you make of that question?
Well, first of all, India and Pakistan both have nuclear weapons. We have not gone to war with either state. We have always had concerns about Pakistan because it has been, in many respects, a hotbed of radical Islam. But thus far, the Pakistani military has been very professional, exercised close control over those weapons. We know that North Korea has nuclear weapons. We also know that the North Korean dictator has been told in no uncertain terms by President Xi of China, and for that matter, President Putin, if you initiate a war with someone and use a nuclear weapon as a result, we will not support you. However, if you are attacked, that's a different story. So contrary to everyone's public criticism and insistence that North Korea could attack us at any time, it's very clear they're not going to attack us because they don't want to be obliterated. And they know that's what would happen. But they've also been told by the two nations that have acted in their behalf not to do it. So I agree with you, Clayton. If Iran develops a nuclear capability, that's Iran's business. Iran has not opened a war against anybody for over 200 years. It has not tried to expand its borders at anybody's expense for over 200 years. I think we're going to live in a world in the future
Israeli
that's going to be
state
different
has
from what we think it ought to be. It's a collection of states that have clear and unambiguous interests. And the big issue for everybody is going to be resource sovereignty. Everybody is now going to be very concerned that they have on hand all of the things that are essential to their survival. And that means energy. Energy in all forms and all types.
Resource sovereignty. I think you're absolutely, man, you hit the nail on the head. Forget this unipolar world order. It is really shifting to this multipolar world order where they need to protect themselves. Go ahead, sir.
I guess when I think about who could actually do that, Africa has aligned itself greatly with China. They will have more access than they have now with sort of the crappy relationship they have with the United States and our sort of...
And France.
Right.
Yeah.
Europe is the one place I think that cannot do it, that cannot be resource sovereign. And, they're just going to be dragged through the mud. I don't see how Europe can survive. I don't see how NATO can survive something like this. I don't know. What do you think of that? That was sort of my knee-jerk reaction.
Setting aside the possibility that the aliens that we talk about periodically operating aircraft that we can't explain may land and ultimately share with us the secret to relating light and magnetism.
Oh, you mean the angels of the Most High?
You're right. Europe is going to have more difficulty than most, but not totally hopeless. Right now, the largest cache of rare earths in Europe thus far has been discovered just a few 100 feet offshore from the Norwegian coast. We know there are tremendous stores of energy, rare earths, and other critical minerals in the Arctic. And the other thing is, remember that one of the reasons we ended up in this terrible position now with Russia is that we, as led by globalists, and unfortunately President Trump has not turned this around, although he promised to do so, convinced everybody that you shouldn't buy cheap energy from Russia because Russia's real insidious plan was to conquer you. Well, that was always nonsense. There's no money in territorial imperialism.
And like everything else, though, Trump's raising tariffs and everything else has caused everyone to hate the whore. Ultimately, and you know that it ends in the ICBMs being fired across the four corners of the earth. So I went into yesterday, that these 200,000 ICBMs will be fired across the four corners of the earth. And you got the Hantavirus hoax, right? Globus launched COVID 2.0. Hantavirus spreads worldwide. EU tells citizens to mask up, stalking hysteria. Just like a light switch, when they turn off this Iran war, they flip the switch to Hantavirus. So, yeah, it's not a matter of, okay, let's just switch gears here, because this war, and how people are supposed to feel about the war ain't going so good. So, we got to put in another scamdemic, man, So, being talked about here. Apostle Tahar breaks down, full spectrum video. So take a look at this.
Shalom, real quick, and all praise to Yahweh. Shalom, 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 44,000 blessings up there, shalom to you all. I'm gonna title this video, "They locking ninjas down in Spain," according to this individual right here. Full spectrum survival. Let's go ahead and listen.
From business closures, concert closures, and large
Fair use.
indoor gathering closures, mask mandates, isolation requirements in public spaces, suspension of high-risk activities. At a national scale from June onward, according to their math models, you would have broad international lockdowns that are not similar to what we experienced in America.
Let's go back.
And right now we're looking at a world war, crop problems, supply issues, food problems, a Hantavirus plague potential, and the discussion that the White House is opening up alien information to everybody. Again, we're living in a lot of coincidence, aren't we? All right, let's see. We've got caveats and recommendations that we discussed. The percentage chance of activity, we went over that a little bit. Let me get down to the phased response recommendation by the virologist. In the immediate phase, late May 2026, upon the first confirmed clusters, so again, around May 21st, when the clusters are confirmed, the government would have to push for strict isolation of suspected cases. A 35-day quarantine for all close contacts of those 35 cases. And targeted...
Here we go again. This time it's going to be worse. And we know what's really going on. We know it's really good.
Travel restrictions from all regional areas. Escalating that into June,
can't fool the
we're
elect.
talking about Black Death level.
Bubonic plague, Black Death, pneumonic plague.
You would have regional lockdowns, stay-at-home orders, closures of schools, non-essential business closures, concert closures, and large indoor gatherings.
Put the mask on again. Get on them long-ass lines to go into Targets. I went into Targets every fucking day. Got on the fucking long-ass line to get in, then get on a long-ass line to cash out.
Other enclosures. Mask mandates, improved ventilation requirements in public spaces, suspension of high-risk activities.
All them gyms, I just got a membership at the gym. They're going to close the gym down. They're going to close the gym down. How many gyms went out of business? You know how many businesses went out of business over that thing we're talking 5 years ago?
At a national scale from June onward, according to their math models, you would have broad...
It's June. Ain't no microchip. I had to say
international lockdowns that are not similar to what we experienced in America. They're more similar to China welding the doors of everyone's house.
And that's what they did. I don't know if they did it to all of China or certain cities, Hong Kong or whatever. I don't think they did it to everybody. Goddamn. They motherfuckers are locked in. The government had to bring them food. Sometimes they didn't get any food. They're pushing you to that wall. And the relief is going to be that chip. They might introduce a chip. I doubt it, but they might.
Closed. And coming to pick up the dead later. Now, the 1 to 4 week incubation period that is known with this variation that spreads person to person, if it has symptomatic transmission...
They said it can't be spread person to person. That's what they say.
...is a silent spread phase, he said.
Unless they do a thing called gain of function, you can look that up.
Time the hospital clusters become visible, May 21st of this year, 2 weeks away, you would already see hundreds, maybe thousands potentially infected, and given a 4 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 death rate, you would see an overwhelming response, maximizing the effectiveness of non-pharmaceutical interventions.
This is some bullshit.
In comparison to the Black Death, the historical response to the bubonic plague involved port quarantine, isolating everybody who was sick. But these isolations were implemented too late, so they weren't effective. He said to understand what we're facing right now, modern surveillance does have early detection. However, with a thick...
Bottom line, you're locking everybody down. I mean, if y'all want to come to this page and watch the rest of this, you can. Anyway, let's hope this is fair use. Let's hope YouTube don't get funny. Anyway, Shalom, on to the next.
So there you have it, just breaking it down a little bit, you know. And so full spectrum was on. You know, they could go with COVID, or they already have a crisis in place, but there is a lot of talk about Hantavirus. I mean, the news headlines are there, you know, everywhere. Trump seizes Venezuela uranium as Iran objective remains elusive. You know, so now he's stealing uranium from Venezuela because he already took that over. U.S. President Trump's administration reportedly overseeing the removal of highly enriched uranium for Venezuela, while its efforts to forcibly rob Iran of its enriched uranium remain unsuccessful. So, like everything else, though, you know, U.S. Department of Energy announced on Friday that 13.5 kilograms of uranium had been removed from a legacy research reactor in Venezuela through a joint operation involving the United Kingdom as well. So, like everything else, though, why do you think that they need to steal that? They're building nuclear weapons. They're going to be using these nuclear weapons. They're going to use the ICBMs to load nuclear weapons on there. You don't get ICBMs for anything else. And, you know, prospecting, right? You know, as to why he halted that, but now, of course, it's been exchanged as a fire, but, you know, they're still saying it. Did Saudi Arabia force Trump to suspend Project Freedom? Saudi Arabia reportedly threatened to ban U.S. military from flying through its airspace and using its bases to assist in Project Freedom. So, you know, that's the true delay if you hadn't caught previous videos. U.S. President Trump's decision to pause operation aimed at guiding ships through the strait reportedly came under pressure from Gulf allies. Located south of Riyadh, the base had been critical to D.C.'s campaign against Iran since the U.S. and the Israeli state launched their war against their country on the 28th of February. Following ceasefire agreement between D.C. and Tehran in April, the U.S. maintained a presence of fighter aircraft refueling tankers and air defense systems at the Saudi base. So, you know, pretty much, though, this was a blow to them, but again, it has to do with the United Arab Emirates recently backing out, you know, and the fact that, you know, Trump had everything to do with that. And you're getting a mass of people everywhere, not just Iranians, but just people in support of ending this war, and they're pissed off. Why has the war on Iran not sparked a mass protest movement? Or actually, they're, you know, asking that, right? Subtle, everyday acts of violence surround and desensitize us, shaping how Americans respond to deportation, war, and the targeting of people of color. Well, like everything else, wartime rhetoric has been sickeningly violent, while U.S. President Trump taken to social media, threatening to destroy bridges, power plants, and even issuing not-so-subtle nuclear warnings that a whole civilization will die tonight if American demands were not met. Meanwhile, we witnessed the Israeli state bombing civilian buildings in Lebanon. You know, 100 bombs dropped again on Beirut in 10 minutes in one instance, as the perpetrators just couldn't contain themselves and continued to bomb Gaza. Closer to home in the U.S., we have witnessed the voices of ISIS reportedly shooting Alex Peretti 10 times, shackling and deporting Amy Luisa Lopez to Honduras, and just the world has become more violent, yet this country's role in driving the violence becoming more palatable. I have been asking myself, how did we get here? Well, you got them spraying agents in the air that's just like lithium to mellow them out. So, either way, she goes into more about the gaslighting. So, she's going to detail.
And Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel, told us Americans in this clip I'm going to show you that if we don't support Israel, well, we might just find ourselves having a little 9/11 attack.
Imagine
There he is.
we don't exist, okay? And you've got the
This guy is Bennett.
jihadists and Al Qaeda type and ISIS and Hezbollah. We know what'll happen. They're going to hit the Twin Towers, 9/11. That's what happens when you say the Middle East isn't our problem. We don't care. The radical Islamists will come to the big Satan, to Manhattan, to California, to America, but with nuclear ballistic missiles. And we never asked America to fight for us. ourselves. We can defend ourselves. We do need America to have our back.
Are you confused by that message? Because I just was. I mean, they're hoping for Americans to get on the ground in Iran. They're not going to send any of their troops to Iran. No, they're busy taking Lebanon, and they're still busy taking Gaza. That's what their troops are for, taking land, while we're occupied with their big enemy, Iran. They've actually never offered troops for any of our Middle East wars that we fought for them. Not once. Afghanistan, Iraq. Never have the Israelis ever fought side by side with Americans. Never. Never happened. But we don't need you to fight our wars for us. But if you don't fight our wars for us, then another 9/11 style attack is going to happen to you. They were the first, Israelis. You can look this up. This is like in the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's not a lie. Israelis were actually the very first to ever commit any terrorist attacks in the Middle East. Zionists were the first terrorists, the first real terrorists who introduced the concept of terrorism to the Middle East. But no, it's everybody else who's the terrorist. It's everybody else. This one makes me really nervous. And the reason is so many Americans have turned their backs on Israel. So many Americans are now not in support of Israel. They're desperate enough, I think, to stage a false flag attack against a lot of Americans. They're going to be very clever, very crafty. They're going to try really hard to make sure that we pin it on the Iranians or whoever they think that we should pin it on, to gaslight our youth especially back into the fold.
Yep. And so, false flag coming, Hantavirus. You see what's going on, right? Take the focus off of them because people are waking up to them, right? U.S. bombs Keshan Port and Bandar Abbas, which these are Iranian ports. The U.S. bombed Iranian ports on Thursday, an attack that will likely plunge the region back into full-scale war, even though they're claiming that there's still a ceasefire. Iran's military released a statement saying that the U.S. violated the ceasefire by attacking 2 commercial ships and bombing Iranian ports. The aggressive terrorist and bandit American army violated the ceasefire by targeting Iranian oil tanker ship moving for Iranian coastal waters in the Jask region toward the strait, as well as another ship entering the strait, opposing the port of Fuzhou in the United Arab Emirates, said a spokesman for the Iranian military's Qatam al Central headquarters. So, like everything else, the U.S. has already violated it quite a few times. So, more from this on RT.
Straight to our breaking news story. The U.S. has breached the Iran ceasefire. That's according to the Islamic Republic's military, which says it has retaliated after American forces attacked coastal civilian sites as well as an oil tanker.
The aggressive, terrorist, and outlaw American military violating the ceasefire targeted an Iranian oil tanker moving from Iran's coastal waters in the Yask region towards the Strait of Hormuz, as well as another vessel entering the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Fujairah in the UAE. Simultaneously, in coordination with some regional countries, they carried out airstrikes against civilian areas along the coasts of Bandar Kamir, Sirik, and Keshem Island. The armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran, in an immediate and retaliatory action, struck U.S. military vessels east of the Strait of Hormuz and south of Bandar Chabar, inflicting substantial damage on them.
Just what I read.
An aggressive United States and its supporting countries must know that the Islamic Republic of Iran, as always, powerful and without the slightest hesitation, will deliver a crushing response to any act of aggression and violation.
At the same time, air defences were fired at targets above the western part of Tehran, as confirmed by the RT team on the ground there. They sent us this exclusive footage from the scene showing blasts in the night sky above the city. Earlier, the Iranian president issued a defiant statement amid US pressure to push through a peace deal, saying Tehran will not bow down. The ceasefire, which has apparently fallen apart, was put into place a month ago after it was brokered by Pakistan. Well, let's discuss this more now with DD Geopolitics journalist Christopher Halali. Many thanks for joining us on the program. So we have Tehran saying the US has breached the ceasefire, while some American media claim this is not a restart of the war. What do you think is really going on?
Well, from the initial reports that we have so far, it is that the United States initiated this next round of provocations by striking an Iranian oil tanker that was in Iranian territorial waters and was transiting from port to port within Iran's waters. It hit that tanker, and then there was a bombing campaign very quickly thereafter by the United Arab Emirates, followed by U.S. Logistical support, which is the initial reports we have. And Iran responded with missile attacks at U.S. naval vessels in the Persian Gulf that were near the Strait of Hormuz. So clearly, we've seen that the United States breached the ceasefire and immediately started a bombing campaign targeting Bandar Abbas, Chabahar, Minab, and also, as you rightfully pointed out, in Tehran, where there were also, according to initial reports, strikes from outside of Tehran and possible air defense that was targeting some drone or military plane activity. So clearly, we have right now a collapse of the ceasefire as targets are being struck all over the Persian Gulf region.
So there you have it. Ceasefire has been broken. So Iran accuses U.S. of violating ceasefire by attacking Tanker Strait of Hormuz. So like everything else, Sources added that the U.S. destroyers attacked by the Iranian Navy near the strait were heading towards the Gulf of Oman. So, you know, they retaliated, as you'll see. So, like everything else, though, you know, this is coming from a former leader. Hormuz icon to atomic bomb, Iranian Supreme Leader's advisor. Tehran and D.C. continue Spartak exchanges of fire as they vie for control of the strategic waterway. U.S. Central Command said on Friday that American terrorists struck unladen Iranian tankers, the MTC Star 3 and the MT Savita, which it claimed were attempted to violate the U.S. blockade by entering Iranian port. You know, so, you know, you got tit for tat going on here because what Trump is doing is illegal. But here we go. Iranian forces strike U.S. vessels in swift retaliation for tanker attack. So this is just confirmed. A statement noted that the aggressive terrorists had outlawed U.S. military in violation of ceasefire target Iranian oil tanker. Vessel was transiting from Iran's coastal waters in the Jask region headed towards the strait. These attacks reportedly targeted along the coast of Bandar. Well, either way, it's pretty much the same thing, but they did retaliate. Iran bypasses Trump's wall of steel, media. 3 Iranian oil tankers bypassed what U.S. President Trump called a naval wall of steel in the Strait of Hormuz and reached Iranian ports through Pakistani waters over the past 2 days. DC's imposed naval blockade on Iran last month to choke off the country's oil trade and pressure Tehran into agreeing to a deal on its nuclear program. Iran ports outside the strait choke point, including Chambar and Jask near Pakistani border, allowing ships to reach Iranian territory via the Gulf of Oman without entering the narrow transit corridor where U.S. naval patrols are concentrated. So, in other words, they were able to evade it. And like everything else, though, we are now starting to hear about there is no more gas coming to California. I'm going to play that video in just a minute, but you can see that everything has just picked up within the last couple of days, right? So, you know, here we are, you know. This can get bigger at any time. We already know that the MOTB will happen. You know, it's just a matter of time, and this could be it, you know, with all the crises that they're doing. You know, I have to say, just like Apostle Tahar is saying, it could happen. It could. Habakkuk chapter 2. And it reads, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say to me. You know, that is watching the news and watching, you know, what's going on. And what answer will I give when I am approved? And the Most High answered me and said, write the vision and made it plain upon tables, that he may run it, readeth it. So, in other words, when you get a vision or you get insight to that, you're to do what we're doing, making videos and go tell others, right? For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And we all know that COVID-19 was just the beginning of using lockdowns and using fear to get people to comply. How much more when they mandate the MOTB? Behold, the soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. You know, and that is these Edomites. They can't do right. It's not in them to do good. And, you know, you could even isolate this to the king of Babylon. Because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and his death cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Again, you know, he touts himself as the king of the world. You know, this king of Babylon. So, you know, well, we know that death and destruction are coming to Babylon and to all that are with them. You know, but nonetheless, though, you know, the crisis is still going on. No more gas to California. Shalom, Barak Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, B'Kakadosh, Wa Abal Babal. Brakatham, Jehovah Shalom.
Wait.
Decades, tankers made their way between the Middle East and California's coast. But as of this week, no more are coming.
That's a significant milestone that I've not seen or faced in my 27-year career.
With a halt at the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. oil supply gap is here, and Californians could soon face the worst supply crisis in the U.S.
Literally standing on the edge of the Chevron oil refinery right along the El Segundo coast. You see those oil tankers out there? Right now they're piping crude oil through the water into the refinery. But the only difference, there's not a single gallon of Middle Eastern oil on board.
60% of its crude oil comes from overseas, and critically, 25% of its gasoline and 20% of its jet fuel. And while oil can move freely across most of the U.S., in California, it cannot. The massive web of pipelines carrying crude oil and fuel across state lines can't come into California, in part because of mountain ranges, desert, and of course, politics. That's because of a century-old law, the Jones Act, requiring vessels shipping oil between U.S. ports to be American-owned, crewed, and built, making it cheaper for California to import oil from Asia or the Middle East. Without competition from the Middle East, prices could go up.
They're actually refining 12 million gallons per day of crude oil. They're doing it behind me here, making critical products like gasoline and jet fuel.
That's equivalent to 1/3 LAX's jet fuel, and enough for 1 in 4 vehicles driving through Southern California. All as plane ticket prices and gas prices keep rising.
It's getting crazy. It's like insane. Like I don't even get full tanks anymore. Economy and spending and groceries and gas and all these things. It definitely weighs heavy. Supply and demand at this point, but it's just unfortunate that we're even in this position to begin with.
Chevron CEO Mike Wirth recently met with the Trump administration and has warned Trump publicly the shock absorbers are being drained out of the system. But while the Trump administration recently acknowledged record high gas prices, they said the U.S. isn't as vulnerable as others. Californians may be left waiting. Even if the war ends now, the next reliable oil shipment could be months away. Decades.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh, Shah, Ba'asham, Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles, there's great millstone, and Sasha brothers on this thing in sincerity and truth and with charity. It's a lot happening in this video. It's a lot happening. For one, hey, Esau was going down, man. That bitch talking about she can't even fill up her car anymore. That's an Edomite saying that, man. All right? This shit is, this shit sad, man. Not like sad, like in a good way. This is Ecclesiastes 4:14. For out of prison he cometh to reign. And we know Edom came out of prison, all right, the Caucasus Mountains. All right, they got control. First they got control of the papacy, of course, and then went from there, got control of a different, positioned themselves in control of different places in Europe, got America, and took off ever since, right? Which goes to Revelation 20, you know, the devil being loosed after that 1,000 years. That 1,000 years being the Dark Ages, or what you call it, a Byzantine Empire where niggas ruled, and Esau was chased away into the mountains. He got out, got back in power. The deadly wound was healed. Rome 2.0 is here. Whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. This man, who else could this be? Just born into debt. You're born into debt in America. You realize that you're born into debt here. This man is the devil the Bible speaks of, and his economy is crashing. All right, and we're witnessing it, man. That's a big part of prophecy. The fall of this economy. The fall of the infrastructure, the dollar, everything they trust in. All right, their idol's going to fail. Their dollar's going to fail. All right, and we're watching. This is Isaiah 10. We get straight to the point. Isaiah 10 and 12. Wherefore shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout. Stout means proud heart of the king of Assyria. And the glory of his high looks. And ancient Assyria did not get taken down like this. This is modern day Assyria, which is America. All right? America's modern, you know, Babylon, modern Assyria, which the Babylonians were Syrians. Okay? Basically the headquarters just changed. The capital changed in so many words. Like Americans are Brits. They just moved over here and they took over. Became the face of the world. Okay? In so many words. Nevertheless, this is talking about America, and the Lord is going to punish, which also is true because in Assyria, punishment didn't end. All right, but it does now. Let's jump down. 16. Therefore shall the Lord of hosts send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle. I'm doing a disservice by not reading this through. Hold on, scratch that. Through the Spirit. 13. Wait, no rush, man. For he said, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, I have removed the bounds of the people. And have robbed their treasures. Esau controls the world. They literally control the currency that everybody uses. They made up fiat currency, debt-based currency, and get real-life resources for it. And I have put down that half like a valiant man, they control the earth. Everybody follows the way of the West. And my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people, and as one gathered eggs that are left have I gathered all the earth, and there was none that moved the wing or opened the mouth or peeped. Shall the axe boast itself against him that healeth therewith? Or shall the salt magnify itself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself as it were no wood. The Lord did this. Esau think they just made a master plan, and no, the Lord prophesied that you would get this kingdom, this authority. You'll rule over the world. You will deceive the world. All right? You'll get the world to follow your whoredoms. So they pick up the ways of the West, starting with democracy and fiat currency, central banking. And then, of course, follows the Western mindset. Right? This is all prophecy. The Lord did this. You chopping down a tree, the axe look and say, I'm raw as fuck. I'm chopping this tree down by myself. You're going to break that axe up, man. And then you can't just break the metal part. You got to melt it. So America is being broken and melted, man. Therefore shall the Lord of hosts, send among his fat ones leanness. And under his glory he shall kindle a burning like the burning of a fire. So this delicious life Esau's been living, we're watching it crumble. That Edomite bitch talk about, I can't even fill my tank up. I don't feel. That's been a nigga problem since forever. Even when gas was low in the 90s, niggas, you got gas, man, hit them with a $5. They rolled on that $5. I know somebody who said, just give him $2, man. That's my nigga, man. Just give him $2. He'll drive that bitch on $2. It's been a Jake problem for the longest, man. Now we watching you fucking squirm and we're watching you lose your fatness, man. And it's only going to get worse. And it's not going to just stop at California. All right? What about the shit that is exported from California interstate, though? Like, it's within the country, state to state. They got to fill up in Cali. That's going to put a higher price on those goods. All right? This shit is through. Which then, less spending. So less spending equals what? Less jobs. And then it's a vicious cycle because then less jobs makes the spending even more less. Which then makes the jobs even less. Esau was fucked. All right? And another reason I said I have in that video, because this is happening. It shows the division amongst these people. Esau was dumb. So there's no more Middle Eastern gas, which they need coming into Cali. But Cali is suing the federal government so they don't drill offshore. All right? So it shows the division. And then when you go... Damn, I went away. Well, when you go to that video, that was something else showed. It showed, fuck. Oh, how they California been ran off all these 13 out of 15 oil companies from gathering oil off the coast of California, doing XYZ in Cali. So you got the division, you got Esau just being dumb. Fucking themselves up. And they fucking themselves up in multiple ways, man. Remind me later. They fucking themselves up in multiple ways, man. Alright? Which this war, and they keep pushing the issue, and Strait of Hormuz has been a thing for a little while now. And they still going full steam ahead with this shit. Which has been made clear this is affecting the American economy. Alright? And now we're starting to see how much it's really going to affect it. 1/3 of all the gas at LAX. That's going to affect summertime travel prices. Then why did Spirit close? Did Spirit close because of gas prices? I had to look into it. I had a conversation with my brother Shapaya, though. The Bishop Shapaya. Alright? My brother. And that was what he mentioned to me. He said the gas prices were high. Now, I didn't do no research. I do like to research things. I just like to research things. But that's what he told me. So, is that why they closed down Spirit Airline? And the gas price is only going higher. Because now, the imports are stopping. That's a big deal. Eventually that's going to affect, it is Isaiah 19:14. The Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. They have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggered in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. Which means what? Again, this economy collapsing is a big part of prophecy. And then, oh, there's something else in that video. Something nefarious could be on the play with this because, well, they've been pushing electric vehicles, and that's what Cali is big on. And there was a comment that said, well, they're pushing EV vehicles so the government can have control over your shit. And we know the mark of the beast is all about Esau playing God and having control. So, oh, you didn't do X, Y, Z? Your social credit score is too low? No, your car will not start. You owe this fine? Oh, no, you can't go anywhere in this car. They have control. All right? But nevertheless, every decision Esau was making is fucking himself up, and he is destroying his economy. We're in beautiful times, brethren. All right? The fact they need this oil, they're suing the federal government to stop oil production from happening, which that was an oil spill in 69, so Canada don't want to fuck up the ecosystem, which it makes sense. It makes sense on that level, all right? But this is the oil, this is the energy source y'all use for your vehicles, which you don't have to, all right? Just another reason why the Lord got to take you down, because you don't have to drill this much for oil and fuck up the lubrication on the earth, all right? It's basically like taking the liquid off your knees, and now it's bone grinding bone. All right? The over pulling of this oil is basically doing that. So now you got the plates grinding. This is what they say, you know. Now you got the plates grinding, all this shit. It's just bad business, man. Esau got to go for that alone. Because you can use corn, which is in abundance. You can use corn to fuel your vehicles. All right? You can use plastic. All right? There's greener ways, man. Diesel burns, and you can make diesel fuel from plastic. Otherwise, the plastic sits in the fucking ocean and makes a plastic island and causes all these chemical issues, man. For the fish, destroying wildlife. It does not have to be. This man is the devil. Every decision he makes is of death and fuck something up, man. And he's going downhill. Hey, this is Revelation. I always do this. Let's go back. Revelation 11:18, and the nations were angry. I was mixing up 11 and 12. I got it right. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward to thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. So, another reason why it's so much happening in that video. All right, it shows the division of Esau, state versus federal going at it. All right. Then it shows that the economy shit is going down, so it's only a matter of time before we out of here. All right. Then the reason why Cali don't want the oil goes, you know, that oil spill that'll make you not want that shit over there. All right, which then shows that Esau is destroying the planet with no need. All right, but this shit is almost over with out there. It's only getting worse, man. It's a lot happening all at once. It's a lot happening, from the damn Lone Star tick to Hantavirus, which that ain't got big yet. Esau is really pushing that shit. Only 5 people got it so far. All right, I'm looking into it. I'm thinking this shit is spreading like crazy. Only 5 people got it, but it just shows that doom is in the air, and they know it, and they fucking know it. All right, let me grab this. This second address. (16) and 16, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer, returneth not backward, even so the plagues that should be sent upon earth should not return again. So it's more plagues coming, all right, and not just plagues like illness, all right, because you read in Exodus, look at the different plagues that hit. All right, it wasn't just viruses. You have plagues of bugs, plagues of this, plague, blood in the water, the firstborn just dying. So, just this shit through. There's a word I'm trying to think of. Across the heart is mentioning it. Damn, it's polycrisis. There's a lot of shit happening, man. That's what time we in. And of course, Esau's gonna try to use some of this shit to his advantage. Or now you need the chip. Now you need this. This jab, you know. happen. It's only going to get worse. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. And feel free, Bob, try to fact check that about the 5 people. But on that cruise, I looked into it, it said 5 people got it, and that's the only numbers I really seen. All right, but that tick shit, I'm seeing everywhere. There's a bunch of animals dead with a bunch of ticks on them everywhere. You know, so it's happening, and the hantavirus, it is happening. The point is, it's the beginning of wars, and so it's only going to get worse on every level. More famine increasing. All right, so there's going to be more cattle dead, more low yield crop seasons. All right, the wars are going to only increase. A skirmish here, a skirmish there. But we've seen how these wars is affecting the economy, so that's going to add to the famine, add to death, and eventually the wars are going to get more violent, more bloody. Right? Here's what I want right here. And the power shall stand in fear. The power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for a moment. So it's like, right now it's giving you a chance to change, even though the wicked won't change. But for all these things, they should not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victory shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. This shit is finna be just death everywhere. And like it says in Amos, there's going to be problems everywhere. Poly crisis. Amos 5:18 warns you that desire the day of the Lord. So what end is it for you? And this is not talking about necessarily the men of the Lord, because it says we hasten that day. But everybody talks about the end. Everybody talks about the apocalypse. And don't realize this shit is going. This is your. It's going to be crazy out here. They're talking about a rapture. No, it's going to be crazy out here, man. It's a nigga, a wicked nigga. This nigga's wicked. He always talking about the end is here. You can just see. They always talking about this the end. You can just see it. But to what end is it for you? Nigga, no, he ain't right. The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. As if a man did flee from a lion, and a bear met him, or went into the house and laid his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. So it's going to be chaos on every level. You escape this one judgment, there's something else waiting on. You escape that. Hey, look, it's nukes at the end of that road, man. All the more reason why we got to do this work, Akim. So I hope it's edifying. All praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Basham, Yahweh Shabbat Sham Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles, there's a great millstone. And stop your brothers doing this thing in sincerity and truth and with charity. James 5, I forgot. By the forgive the spirit. Feel free to check that out, man. We in them times. Shalom. Bible ball.